Hello and welcome to the 212th episode of Ask M&R Productions. Not a lot of 212th related questions for this episode. Nobody really went above and beyond. I was kind of surprised. As always, if you have a question you want answered on next week's episode, leave in the comments below on the most recent episode. And we're on a really good streak of having no dislikes on Ask M&R Productions. Let's keep it up. First question from Darthzilla says, if the Mandalorian is a bounty hunter, he'll need more space. Do you think Din Djarin will get a larger ship to perhaps park his N1 in? It's a very interesting concept, and of course he asked, will we ever get a LEGO set like that? So if we got something that Mando parked his N1 Starfighter in, it would not be to scale with the one that LEGO has released. They would not release something that big. But I also think the way the show is going, Mando isn't really going to be bounty hunting too much in the near future. I think he's got some fatherly duties with Grogu. So they have his little porthole or whatever you want to call that area in the back. It very much reminds me of the 2009 Clone Wars Y-Wing set with Ahsoka's little spot in the back gunner space behind Anakin. But Mando has stuff to do on Mandalore, so I think they'll be concerned with that in Season 3, and then who knows what happens from there. But also, the funniest solution to Mando's space problem is him having a trailer, like a little U-Haul trailer behind his N1 Starfighter. That's my favorite idea that I just came up with. I want that to happen. Warstat Lego says, do you think the new AAT will grow in price a lot? I can already see the 332nd Clone Trooper going for over $10, and the set is $40. Should I buy the set and keep it sealed? The only reason the 332nd Clone Trooper is $10 is because it's basically the only great thing about that set. The Ahsoka comes in a cheaper set. The AAT is just not that great, and the two battle droids have been in other sets, and battle droid variants historically do not go for a lot of money either. So the only thing valuable in the set, therefore, is the 332nd Trooper. I don't see this as a great investment. I would also say, this is my opinion, I also used to hold the opinion that the Republic fighter tank from 2017 wouldn't be worth much anytime soon, and it now goes for like $70, and that was a $25 set. So the real answer is who the heck knows, but personally, I don't think so. I don't think it's worth it, because in 5 years, it might be worth 60, 70 bucks, but you've gone from 40 to 60 or 70. Once you're out eBay fees and shipping, like, is it really worth it? No. The Boss Bricks Production says, what is the most overrated LEGO Star Wars UCS set in your opinion? And when I read this question, I immediately thought in my mind, what UCS set, like, gets a lot of praise that it doesn't deserve? And I could not come up with an answer, because, like, basically every UCS set that isn't, Assault on Hoth, not really a UCS set at that point either, has been spectacular as time has gone on. And so I went on Brickset, who has some user ratings of sets, and I ranked the sets in descending order of their highest ranked sets first. The highest rated UCS set amongst the, subgroup of fans that use Brickset and submit ratings on a set is the 2007 UCS Falcon with 4.7 stars out of 5. By comparison, the Slave 1 has 4.6 stars. The 2017 UCS Falcon has 4.6 stars. The 2003 Star Destroyer with 4.6 stars. The 2012 Imperial Shuttle with 4.5 stars. The UCS AT-AT with 4.5 stars. You start to get the idea. These other UCS sets with slightly less stars are significantly better than the 2007 UCS Falcon. It's not that it's not a great set. It's just not the best set. It is clearly overrated amongst fans, at least, that have used this website and submitted a rating here. It's also worth noting that a lot of people may have submitted ratings on this particular set 10 years ago, and so, they were looking at it through that lens of the time, because it's clearly not the greatest UCS set ever at this point, because I think there have been 5 or 6 that are just clearly leaps and bounds better than it. TG Ultra Supreme says, in regards to the Summer Wave, do you think that the Republic fighter tank with Mace Windu's purple clone troopers is still happening? Is there still a spot unconfirmed in the lineup to fit it? There's always a spot for it, yes, but I don't think it's happening. I did a rumor update video just the other day. If you haven't seen that, definitely check it out. But as far as I can tell, this is a set that just doesn't seem like it's going to be coming out. Giacchio says, what is the oldest LEGO relic you own? Your mom. I might be forgetting something, but I'm pretty sure it's actually this LEGO police boat. I don't even know what it's... I don't know what these stripes mean. I'm sure they mean something, but I can't remember. Brickstar, help. But yeah, it had this really cool, like, weighted thing that you would put under it, and then it could actually, like, stabilize the boat in the water. So I have the set. I have the pieces. They're out in the garage. They are not in as good of condition as the picture depicts, so it's not as nice looking as this, but yeah, this is the oldest thing I own. I want to say it's 1972, isn't it? The copyright 1977 on the bottom, so the year Star Wars came out is when this set came out, and I think it's so old. This was, people bring it up, like, oh, will LEGO one day switch to stickers on minifigures? LEGO used to use stickers on minifigures. I am pretty sure maybe this isn't one, but they definitely used to use stickers on the minifigure torso. So yeah, that was pretty crazy. But this, I'm pretty sure, is the oldest Lego set I own. Blopfish11 says, do you think we will actually get a Phase 2 Cody? I hope so, because we saw him in the new trailer for Skywalker Saga. Whoever's working on the Skywalker Saga trailer stuff certainly knows the audience they are catering to. They seem to know what's going on, so I appreciate that. Will we actually get one? I mean, I can't imagine we wouldn't. It's also worth saying that he could show up in Kenobi, and I have this fear that they're going to release whatever the Kenobi armor is and call it a day and never do the Episode 3 version. If they are identical or very, very close, whatever. But if it's like a difference, I mean, we already have a Clone Wars Commander Cody. Like, that's the same thing. Like, it's, you know, we have that. I feel like the demand is very clearly for Episode 3 Commander Cody. That doesn't mean we shouldn't have the Kenobi Cody if he looks significantly different or even similar, but, you know, it's gonna, I don't know. It just depends on if he even shows up in the show and what he would look like, and there's a lot of questions to be answered there. But yeah, I can't imagine LEGO wouldn't give the fans what they want. Actually, I can. Bricks by Bit 104 says, I know you don't like to talk about price differences with LEGO, but I'm a little confused. Last year's Bad Batch shuttle was $100 in the US and $150 in Australia, but now Boba Fett's throne room is $100 in the US, but $160 in Australia. So could you please explain what happened? No, I can't. I do not know what happened, but I will try. So I looked up the conversions for Australian dollars, and the Australian dollar this year is weaker than it was last year, and that's compared to the US dollar, and therefore that would make sense that the new version would therefore have to cost more by $10 in Australia, I guess. The other reality is that pricing amongst countries is not 100% consistent. Like, another good example of this is the Yoda in the United Kingdom costs 105 pounds or 100 US dollars, but the Boba Fett's palace that just came out, that's 100 US dollars, costs 90 pounds. So you can see, like, there are just sometimes price differences between different sets, between different countries, even though in one country that, and it's not always US to another country, sometimes it's other countries to the US, keep that in mind too, that it's not a one-way street, but I know that's the lens most people look at it through. Jake says, as an adult that recently got into Star Wars for the first time, how would you recommend I watch the Clone Wars? There's a chronological order to watch it that includes the movie and ends with the Bad Batch, and would present a more coherent storyline. I tried to watch it once in release order, and I was so confused it couldn't hold my attention. What is your personal preference? So for me, when I watched it as a kid, you know, I watched it in release order, obviously, and so that to me is like a perfectly fine and normal way, like, to watch it, and it doesn't confuse me at all. But I kind of get it. Like, if you haven't been watching Star Wars since you were 5 years old, I guess it could be definitely confusing. It's just not like a point of view or like a thing I share, I guess. Thankfully, there are a lot of sites that have the chronological order, and that seems to definitely be the way you should go. I don't think there's like a better way to watch it necessarily, but I think if it's hard for you to watch just in the random order that they kind of released it in, then don't watch it in that way. Just watch in chronological order. 7brick says, what are your thoughts on the new Goat Boat Thor set? I think it's cool, and almost all the figures have leg printing, which is kind of rare in Marvel sets. Dude, this set is so cool because it has a cool name. It also has a couple goats at the front, which look pretty good as brick-built goats. I think people kind of wanted the molded goat, but the brick-built ones look fine. The figures in it are great. And look, the build is just so cool to me. It's like a Viking ship with a house built on it. It's one of the weirdest LEGO sets of the year for sure, but definitely one I'll be buying and reviewing. I think it comes out April 26th. I'm pretty pumped about it. Elk712 says, do you ever think we'll get an actual Bantha figure? I know we have the brick built one from the Microfighter set, but to actually have a Bantha figure like we have for the Dewback, I think would be very popular. I agree. I think that this should have made its way into a set at some point in the last 20 years, but it just never has, and that's really unfortunate. And I think a lot of people saw when they started first advertising for the Skywalker Saga, there was a big molded Bantha that they had created as an asset for the Skywalker Saga. And just the other day, they released like some sizzle reel or something for the Skywalker Saga.
We've designed some of the characters that don't exist as physical models.
And we take existing LEGO creatures and characters that are similar, and then what we end up with is something that is as accurate as we could make it. Take the Bantha, for example. So it's just really true to LEGO.
So LEGO didn't make that. The TT Games people made that to make it look like LEGO made it for the game, obviously, which means LEGO doesn't actually plan on releasing a Bantha, which is really, really a shame because the Bantha is like such an iconic animal. But I mean, realistically, look, Banthas did play a significant role in Book of Boba Fett, Maybe. Seems like one of those things the designers would bend over backwards to do as well because they all love the original trilogy so much. I mean, it's kind of ironic that it took us until 2020 to get any form of a bantha. I don't think there was one before the microfighter, so yeah, it's pretty insane, but hopefully. Miles wants to know what minifigs might spike in price like Cad Bane because their characters will show up in shows like the upcoming Kenobi show. So I follow the leaks and rumors for a lot of these things so I can grab sets to put into my reviews for when shows come out. So like the Darth Vader's ties back there for the Kenobi show when that comes out. And, you know, I would expect the Inquisitor, like I think the Grand Inquisitor is supposedly possibly going to show up in Kenobi. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know, it depends on how you look at it, I guess. If you're a speculator, I guess, unfortunately. But there are so many different Anakin figures that, like, even though Anakin's going to be in Kenobi, it's not going to affect the price of Anakin minifigures at all. It just can't. Same for Obi-Wan Kenobi minifigures. Like, it just, maybe there's, like, a specific rare version of Kenobi that everyone kind of latches on, or Anakin, but I just don't see that happening. It's not like a case where Cad Bane, there's only ever been 2 Cad Bane figures or something. Like, there's been dozens of Kenobis and dozens of Anakins. It's possible some clone troopers show up in the show, like Captain Rex and Cody, and that could definitely spike their price, like we were talking about a little bit earlier, possibly Commander Cody and Kenobi. So there's definitely that on the table, but it obviously just ultimately depends on which characters show up in the show, and as of now, we just don't know. Jay says, do you think the Star Wars fandom is too negative? I've recently found out that everything receives a lot of hate, even if it's genuinely good, like the Naboo N1 Starfighter. So, Jay, I 100% agree with you that I think the Naboo Starfighter is also a good set, but I don't think it's fair to say everything gets hate, even if it's genuinely good, like the Naboo Starfighter. Like, the way you phrase that is inferring that everyone else has to like the set because you and I like it. And while I agree, I think everyone should like that set, I don't think it's fair to be like, you can't say you don't like that because I like it, because that's obviously not how it should be, because, like, different people have different tastes, and different people are going to look at things and be like, yeah, that looks like trash, and I look at the Naboo fighter and I think it looks good. I look at other things and think they look like trash, and then people tell me I'm always negative, and it's like, no, I'm not. I just tell you how I feel, and I don't sugarcoat it or lie about it. And as to whether or not the Star Wars fandom is too negative, it's a really difficult question, and the answer doesn't even really matter, because it's not going to change, like, how people react to shows and movies, right? But I think that how terrible the sequel trilogy was received, because it was so poorly planned, very obviously. Like, there are very valid reasons to just be real upset with the state of Star Wars. I didn't hate the sequel trilogy quite as much as some other folks did, but its flaws definitely show. I also really, I think being into the LEGO side of it for all the sequel stuff helped me through it too, because I had that to be at least excited about. Maddie says, would you ever consider creating or having someone create for you an app that tracks LEGO sets and figures? I feel like there isn't a good, simple, easy website or app on the market for it, and it could be a huge hit, especially if someone like you were to create and market it. Definitely to have it on your phone or your iPad would be super advantageous. I've always wanted that sort of thing on my phone, like to be able to keep my LEGO collection on there and everything, just super simple, easy UI. And I possess zero coding skills. I could never do it myself. I would definitely have to pay someone else to do it. Would it be profitable? I have no idea. Like, that, there's a lot of questions that would need to be answered there. And so for me personally, I don't really have much interest in running that sort of thing. Would I market it? Sure, but I would want very little hands-on involvement, I suppose, would be at the end of the day. Like, I wouldn't mind owning or having, like, a stake in a business that did that, I guess, if that's the way I want to look at it. But, like, could I do that or keep on top of it on a day-to-day thing? No, I have too much else going on. Just a Banana says, what would you rather throw away, your LEGO Star Wars boxes or instructions? Definitely the instructions. They gotta go. Dude, I have a whole bin down here. It's like a 50-pound bin. I'm not kidding. It's so heavy with tons of instructions, and I haven't even added instructions to it in like 5 years. I filled it up like 5 years ago, and I don't even know where I've been putting my instructions, to be honest now. They just kind of get put in different places, and eventually when I move, I'll find them all and put them all in a nice organized way. But like, yeah, the instructions I definitely cherish a lot less than the boxes. It's, the boxes I also use like for the beginning of the review and the thumbnail, so it's also kind of important for me to have them for that if I ever needed it. Plus, I'll never need to use the instructions again. Most things I build, I am never going to take apart and rebuild, so I definitely don't need them for that. Will says, have you ever considered becoming a LEGO designer just to have some influence on Star Wars sets that get released? I think I've already got that kind of down pat. It was kind of an unintended consequence of becoming popular making LEGO Star Wars videos on YouTube. Omar says, what do you think of the people who defend LEGO on everything? I've seen some people on Instagram saying it doesn't matter that Boba's helmet is the wrong color because kids don't care, which is a ridiculous argument if you can even call it that. To me, it just seems like a straw man argument. And I see this a lot. It's like, oh, but it's for kids. It's very clear that there is now a very significant amount of people that buy LEGO Star Wars sets as collectors and enjoy it from that perspective. And LEGO knows this. They cater to this with UCS sets. And of course, these fans want to buy the other sets too because they tend to like all of Star Wars. And unsurprisingly, a lot of these fans like to buy sets that aren't just UCS sets. I know it's a crazy concept. Just because the box says 8+ doesn't mean just 8-year-olds want it. It's really interesting how some people are just very complacent with having an inferior product. Like, me coming on YouTube and being like, Boba Fett's helmet sucks and is wrong, does nothing but hopefully make LEGO's product better in the future. That's literally all it does. And for it to get the response of, oh, kids don't care, or oh, you're just whining, like that's so dumb to me. You are for some reason accepting an inferior product from essentially a luxury brand because kids don't care. But obviously I care, so why can't I care? I don't know, it's just dumb stuff, bro. Jimblade says, is the UCS X-Wing due for a remake possibly May 4th next year? Unfortunately, the answer is yes, and I wouldn't be shocked at all if they did it, even though there are so many better options. Darth Vader's TIE Fighter and a new Slave One should have been a 1-2 combo for 2022. They should have released the Slave One on January 1st and a UCS Darth Vader's on May 4th because Book of Boba Fett and Darth Vader is supposed to be in Kenobi. I can only assume he would be flying around in his TIE Advanced, and it wouldn't be the first time that LEGO had released UCS sets on January 1st and May 4th. Did it in 2015 with the Slave One and the TIE Fighter, funny enough. I think what last year and this year has really shown me is that LEGO Star Wars really needs to switch over to the 3 per year UCS sets, or maybe every other year having 3 in a year so that you can still get more. Like, I just feel like they cannot release enough of them to keep up with how many different things they need to make, both new and remake of the old. Like a Razor Crest or Kylo Ren Shuttle, 2 kind of very cool ships from newer properties that definitely deserve a UCS treatment. But at the same time, obviously the Slave One needs to be remade, Darth Vader's TIE Advanced, the X-Wing needs to be remade soon. And you have stuff like Luke's Landspeeder that's never been made, maybe a UCS ATT, ARC 170, Jedi Starfighters, like Obi-Wan with Anakin's Jedi Starfighter would be a dope combo UCS set. Venator, like there are so many sets. So in regards to my YouTube career, David says, one thing you forgot to mention, but I think is useful for your viewers, is that unlike many of them, you do not have to pay income tax as you live in Florida and that state doesn't have them. However, any viewer who wants to follow in your footsteps should be aware that they're likely to face taxes on any income they make from YouTube or anywhere else. And if they're here in Europe, that income tax might be pretty darn high. Yes, the European income tax does seem to be higher than the US. That really sucks. I agree, but that's just life. You pay the tax where you live. It is what it is, right? But you do have it wrong. I do not pay no taxes. Trust me, I wish I did. The most basic way I can explain it is that the United States as a whole has a tax that anyone that lives in the US pays. And I think it goes all the way up to 39.5% of your income. And then, depending on which state you live in, that state may or may not, in my case, I live in Florida, they do not, charge you an additional state income tax. So in Florida, it's 0%, and that is a big reason I want to stay in Florida. I have thought about moving to both Massachusetts and Georgia. Those are the other 2 states I would, potentially want to live in. And one of the major things holding me back is that I would essentially pay 5% more tax every year. And I know 5% is not the end of the world. It's just 5%, but like, come on, it's 5% that I don't have to pay if I live in Florida. Why would I not want to live in Florida where I don't pay that extra 5%? I really like in Florida anyway. I'd probably stay here anyway, even if the state tax in other states was 0% too. JMV says, thoughts on the 2023 Treyarch Call of Duty game being delayed? I think that it is a great thing that they are skipping a Call of Duty game in 2023. I think they should have done this in 2020. I think they should have skipped Cold War and let Modern Warfare 2019 have 2 years in the spotlight with its Warzone, and like everything was just going so well for it. It would have made so much sense for them to do that anyway too. But with Modern Warfare 2 coming out this year probably, having that game out for 2 years sounds like a pretty swell deal as well. I think it's, as someone that's really into Call of Duty, I play Warzone on Twitch all the time. Check me out on Twitch. It's M&R Games. I'll have a link in the description. But I think it's very good for the competitive scene too, where you can actually build a competitive scene over a couple years for a game and actually have, 2 different final matches for that and whatever, 2 seasons or however they do it for Call of Duty. I think that's a great thing. A lot of the competitive players wanted to play Modern Warfare 2019 for 2 years. Like, there's always been kind of demands for that sort of thing. And I also think it'll be very good for the Warzone part of Call of Duty, where they can kind of focus on that. But in a general sense, it's just a great thing to allow Call of Duty to breathe for once. It's been yearly releases for almost 2 decades. it just becomes overbearing at a point. And I'm someone who enjoyed the yearly releases. I just agree that it was time to take a year off. And I did the whole second half of this episode with the hiccups, so your like would be greatly appreciated because it was a little bit annoying to get through this. But if you have a question you want to answer on next week's episode, leave it down in the comments section below. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss my future LEGO videos. And you can check me out on twitch.tv/M&R Games for some COD Warzone streams. Bye, everyone.